And so people are starting to realize that these Teslas are just hype, right? They're just hype. Everybody wants to jump on the train and everybody just wants to get in just because other people have it. And they're realizing that they're not built that well. And so keep that in mind, innovators and early adopters, is it may not be the product that you thought it was going to be. And then you got people that get in once it's standard retail, once it's mainstream. And so there's really no negative to this. Yo, what's goody, Latrell in a hoodie, and welcome to another episode of the Brother Next Door podcast, where we talk about finance, personal development, and skills to get you further in life through actual steps, and my own personal experiences. In this episode, we're talking about what type of consumer are you. Understand we have 5 different types, and we're going to get right into it. So understand the first type of consumer is an innovator. So what is an innovator? An innovator are the ones that get in before everybody else. They're the ones in the blogs. They're the ones in the news. They're the ones on the forums that are just waiting for something new to drop, right? Or they're in the email list and just waiting for something to drop so they can get their hands on it before anybody else. And they know about it before most people even know about it, right? And so that is an innovator. And so are you an innovator? Are you the one in the forums? Are you the one that are you a person that, wants to be on top of when something new drops? Whether that's a shoe, whether that's a camera, whether that's clothes, whatever it may be, you just want to be the first person to have it. Now, why is this stuff important? Before we go any further, let me explain why this is important. It's important to know what type of consumer you are. That way you could better manage your habits when it comes to spending. And understand there are benefits and uh, a bad side to all these, right? And so we're going to go into that as well. Next is early adopters. So these are people that are referred to from the innovators. And so this is, hey, did you hear about this new shoe that's dropping? Hey, did you hear about this new laptop, this new Chromebook, whatever the case may be? Did you hear about it dropping? And now you look into it and it's like, oh snap, let me go ahead and get on the list to, pre-order, right? And so these are early adopters. Next, you have standard retail. So understand standard retail is basically your product's everywhere. The product is everywhere, right? And anybody can get their hands on it, of course, obviously. And so it's just a matter of people going out and just buying it over and over and over. So this is, your toothpaste. This is, your toiletries. This stuff you get consistently over and over again. And then you have mainstream. So when you become mainstream, which is the next one, you become mainstream when the product's everywhere, right? You don't start buying a product until it's on the shelves. Everybody's talking about it. News talking about. Everybody's talking about it until it's mainstream. Until it is a household name. That's the type of buyer a mainstream buyer is. And then last but not least is the late bloomers. Now this type of buyer right here, this is the person that waits until everybody's tried it. You got all the reviews out, whatever the case may be, and then they go out and get that product or whatever the case may be. Or even they go back, think about retro games, stuff like that. They go back and maybe didn't live during that time or wasn't born during that time to play, old 90s games. But now they're going to go back and buy those old games and play those old games because, it's cool or whatever the case may be. So you really want to understand what type of consumer you are. If you're an innovator, understand when it comes to innovators, there's a lot of risk involved. Why? Because now you're buying something that the market fully hasn't tested, that the creators haven't fully tested. Yes, they may have done trials and different stuff like that, but it hasn't touched the masses yet, right? So everybody might not be rocking with it. And so think about EVs, right? Cars, electric vehicles, right? Think about those. How that was the big craze. The government was behind it. We're gonna have all these EVs by a certain amount of time, and people aren't buying them. Why? Because the technology isn't there yet. It's a hassle to have to sit in a parking lot for 30 minutes or however long to charge your EV unless you have a supercharger, unless you have supercharger capabilities. It's not feasible for most people. And so understand that's where you got all these people with these Teslas jumping in, right? Getting the pre-orders, right? Hearing about it, wanting to get it, and then the early adopters as well. And now, 2, 3 years later, oh, this car sucks. I'm about to sell it. Understand the price went from 40,000 in June of 2023 to now 38,000, almost 40,000 today for the Tesla Model 3. And so understand that's the base model, of course. And so if you go over to Carfax, they're selling for 21,000. So all I did was put in Tesla Model 3, any trim. You got standard range, you got long range, and they're selling, like I said, 2022s. They're selling for 21,000, 22,000, right? And so understand people are now starting to realize these cars aren't really what we thought they were, right? And not only that, but Tesla's lowering prices, right? And so, like, if we go all the way back, initially it was 37,000, and then they moved it up to 39,000, and then 37,000, and then 44,000. And so they keep moving the price, they keep moving the goal. And it's like that's not feasible for a car company to just keep moving the goalposts, because now you're playing with the value of people's cars who have already bought the car. And so if somebody were to buy, so for the people that bought Teslas back in 2023 for $40,000, those same 2023 cars are selling on Carfax, or not on Carfax, but they're selling for $20,000. Half the price. Half the price in 2 years. Is generally it should take about 4 years, 4 to 5 years for depreciation to knock the value down about 40%. About 40%, not a whole 50% within 2 years. And so people are starting to realize that these Teslas are just hype, right? They're just hype. Everybody wants to jump on the train, and everybody just wants to get in just because other people have it. And they're realizing that they're not built that well. And so keep that in mind, innovators and early adopters, is it may not be the product that you thought it was going to be. And then you got people that get in once it's standard retail, once it's mainstream. And so there's really no negative to this. You waited, right? Maybe you won't be able to buy it and then flip it, right? You won't be able to, like the Tesla trucks, be able to buy the Founders Edition and then be able to sell it for $50,000 to $100,000 more, right? No, you'll miss out on stuff like that as a standard retailer or as, a mainstream buyer. But now the product has proven that it's worth staying in the market, right? They're still selling, they're still on shelves, they're still in the car lots, whatever the case may be. And so it's still worth buying for whatever reason, for whatever reason. And so there's nothing wrong with being standard retail. There's nothing wrong with being mainstream. And then you have the late bloomers. These are the people that wait and wait and just want to be sure that, okay, we're getting a good product, right? That this product is here to stay. Or I want to, go back to the 90s, go back to the 80s and get me an older car and just be able to, drive and enjoy what it was like, driving in the 90s and 80s. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so those are late bloomers. And so figure out the type of consumer you are is crucial. Now, obviously, there's other, things to consider, whether you're going into debt for stuff, whether you're paying cash for stuff. We're not necessarily talking about that. We're talking about, when do you decide to buy a product? When do you decide is the right time to get into a product? One of the big things was what was the Apple goggles or whatever they were? Apple Vision Pros. Nobody's talking about those Vision Pros. I haven't heard not a single person talk about those in months. And that was the biggest craze, right? Like $3,400, whatever the case may be for those. And so it's just like, okay, cool, you have it, but it's like, what what all does it do that my phone? I mean, got FaceTime, got like is you know what I'm saying? And so it's just like, cool, the innovators got it, the early adopters got it, but it's not mainstream, right? Everybody's not talking about it anymore. Everybody's not going out to buy it. Why? Because the price was just way too high. And especially in the economy we're in, it definitely doesn't make sense for people to go out and buy those Vision Pros. And so take these into consideration. You have innovators, you have early adopters, you have standard retail, you have mainstream, and then you have late bloomers. Figure out what type of customer you are, consumer you are, and be able to use that to your advantage. Be able to know, okay, I'm an innovator. I may be able to get stuff before other people get it and, inspire other people to go get it, refer other people to go get it. But it may flop. The car may depreciate by 50% within 2 years, right? The clothes may not be in style next season, whatever the case may be. And so it's important that you buy stuff because you enjoy that stuff. You buy stuff because you want that stuff, not just because you're going to have it before everyone else, right? And so take this into consideration. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. Leave a 5-star review. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. Let me know what I can improve on. And we're going to keep providing great value. And I will see y'all in the next episode. Peace.